many people have been coming to the NAB more than 10 or 15 years? I'm going to say it's a room full of engineers. I expect I could go to 40 or 50 and still get some hands. Yeah, I know, Frank. You've been, how long? Over 40. There we go. So the thing that got my eye, the SBE does an annual salary survey. And some of y'all SBE members have seen it and filled it out. And you get that salary survey, and if you feel like doing a little bit of math and playing with a spreadsheet, you can calculate the ages of the engineers, because that's one of the questions. And in 2012, John Parade noticed a somewhat disturbing trend. So this year, actually, I think it was it this year? It might have been last year. 2024, it was last year. I took last year's salary survey, which did just come out a couple of months ago, or a little while ago, and discovered that that trend is not slowing down. So we're getting older. We need to find a way to bring younger people in. We need to find a way to manage stuff, and we need to find a way how not to fry them when we do it. And so I picked these three because Cindy has got experience all over the world working with some really nasty places and some really cool people. Gary, because, well, they're married and I got to bring one, I can't bring the other. No, because he's an AM guy in his own right, and AM is still really cool, but it's also the kind of stuff that hurts. And I picked Josh because he'd been an engineer, a manager, an owner, and all the things, so I figure at some point he's probably bucked across all of these. So the big thing, I'm going to try this. How many people in this room are under 30? See, I purposely went high. And any of you under 25? 2, 3, couple, 4, 5, yeah. Anybody under, let's go 22. Under 22, got 2 over there. Those the only 2? It's hard to see with this light. Oh, there's one right back there. Okay, under 21. Okay, not old enough to drink in Vegas. We got our youngest attendee right over there, under 21. How old are you? 20. Oh, there, I would have gone to hit it next turn. So for reference, I took the official count, got it from Fiona a little bit ago. There are 280 not Nautel people in this room. Congratulations, you are the future of the entire industry. No pressure. So this is the part where I put up my favorite slide about education, which basically says you don't need a college degree. You can get it anywhere. Ask a question, ask a friend. Josh. Actually, no, let's hit Cindy. You're holding the mic now. Best learning. Best way to learn stuff.
By doing it.
Where's our microphone guy?
Right
Audio guy. There we go. We back up? Is it on?
Should be.
There we go. So learn by doing.
Learn by doing.
How do you do it without killing yourself if there's nobody to teach you?
Be very, very careful.
So, and that is the challenge. I mean, so some of y'all, okay, let's go the other way for a second. Anybody here over 60?
That's a lot of hands.
Anybody, you notice the ratio here?
Yeah.
Anybody here over 65? 70? 75? Is Ben still here? See, so we got some folks that have been doing this for quite a while. Well, y'all remember when you started, there was a chief engineer, there might have been a studio engineer, might have been a transmitter engineer, might have been a board engineer back in the day. And that's just radio. You know, you get to TV, you had 4 engineers for everything, because that's where the money is, could be. It might have been. Anyway, the point is that now, how many people here have more than one engineer for one station? Barry. Oh, another one. Half a dozen. How many people have one engineer for more than 10 stations? And you notice, if not more, at least the same amount of hands. We don't have the Elmers anymore. We don't. So we have to manage, and this is where I'm going to throw it at Josh, because number one, because he's coughing, so he looks more self-conscious. But you've got a team of younger engineers. And this comes back to what Rob Bertrand talked about at PREC. I think Paul mentioned it earlier, and I think I'll have somebody from Inrush later on. But younger engineering firms are kind of what's happening. Okay, well, I'm going to make Gary answer the question then.
Wow.
So how do you train the younger engineers while Josh is choking to death? By the way, we need another young engineer here.
Yeah, he just checked out. He's done.
I'm not dead. I'm not dead.
One thing is, I told Lindsay before we started, I asked her if it was okay to make you cry.
Yep.
It's,
I guess I'm
there you
here.
go. All right, so
I'm sorry. What was your question?
training young engineers, younger engineers.
Yes.
What's your advice? How do they do it? When you can't find an Elmer, what do you do?
The engineers that work for us, we actually are, we take them out and let them do things. There's not a lot of sit down. There never has been sit down training for this job. There's been, I think, 2 schools over the course of the years that had a broadcast engineering program. But it's always been a learn on the job. I have a degree. It has nothing to do with radio engineering. And, it's just we all know this business is a disease that you can't get rid of. Trust me, I've tried. So
He's even bought radio stations to try and cure himself of it.
that'll do it quick. So, but overall, it comes down to what Cindy said. You learn by doing, and it's got to be immersive, because we just recently hired a guy who's very nice, and he worked for a major broadcaster as an assistant engineer for a long time. And he's a smart guy, and he's very easy to get along with, and he's willing to learn, but he was so sheltered in the job that he was in. I said, you've worked there for almost 20 years, so you must have a lot of knowledge. I need you to go out to this site and check all this stuff. And he's like, I've never done that. And so I'm like, what? Yeah, he knows the 5 things that he was allowed to do the entire time he worked there, and that doesn't work. Not in this world. We've gotten to the point now where, the younger generation knows IT a whole lot more than they know RF. So they need to learn the RF portion from us, because RF isn't big tubes and giant transformers anymore for the most part. It's a computer with a bunch of amplifiers hooked up to it. Yeah. That's really all it is. So they've already got the majority of that. It's just teaching them how to not kill themselves while they're, rooting around in the amplifier section. Yeah. And I think that's the thing. You've got to teach safety, and you've got to teach troubleshooting. That's one of the biggest things, is troubleshooting. How do I logically think through this problem? And that's something that some people get and some people don't. It's a great skill if you have it, and sometimes it can be taught. But we've had people that have worked with us where I've tried to teach them. I'm like, you think through this logically, and they just can't wrap their head around it. And that's one of the biggest things, because if you can figure out how to do troubleshooting, you can solve any problem, whether it's broadcast or why your toaster won't toast.
Yeah. Cindy looks like she's got a thought percolating, so.
That's bad news. It might smell. No, I think that one of the reasons that they don't know how to troubleshoot is because they're siloed, and when they first go to a radio station or a television station, they don't get to learn what happens in the whole facility from soup to nuts. You go sit in the corner and solder that. And I got stuck in my first TV station on an overnight master control shift, and they left me and said, bye, don't hurt anything. Unless incoming engineers understand how the whole broadcast product works from stem to stern, they're not going to understand how to troubleshoot a piece of it.
That's exactly right.
Gary, thought?
Don't make Gary talk.
Yeah, don't make
I asked if he had a thought.
That's a problem. No. When we're training people for the antenna work, it's, again, throw them in the pond, throw them an anvil to help out, and swim. It's really hands-on, but again, it's important. Where does this go? Where does it end? Nobody has the big picture. We need to teach the big picture to all the people, no matter what sector we're in. And then what happens if? And the other thing is slow down. Our COO, who was here yesterday, has a favorite saying, slow down to go quicker, because you can do a lot of mistakes real fast. It takes more time to rectify. So.
Well, and that's like what we were talking about with the disaster prep with Kevin earlier. You know, sometimes you got to stop and take that deep breath before you start to jump in. And I mean, I've got a picture of, I think it's the Microsoft Office planning app. I forget what it's called, and I don't care, because, thank you. See, I knew there'd be somebody that knew. And I mean, I'm not what you would call the most organized. My wife plots my life for me, and what she doesn't do is programmed into my phone, because if I don't have somebody telling me what to do, it doesn't get done. But I think, especially with the fewer resources, that the planning is key. Stephen Lockwood, I saw you earlier. Are you still here? So Stephen does the RF safety course for the SBE, and I'm going to give a plug for the SBE just because if you are a young engineer and want to learn the concepts of how not to die doing this, that's one of the better courses or resources you can have. Okay? So just, and that's kind of comes back to what we've been talking about before with the using the resources and making friends with the engineers in the area. I mean, we're all in this together. You know, ultimately everybody wants to get out at the end of the day, and it's kind of nice to have somebody to back you up.
And you find this even in the consulting sector, where we're all supposed to be wizards, which we're really not. We all call each other. We all email. It's like, have you seen one of these things do that before? I have no damn clue. So we all, and you get all levels of engineering. Talk to your colleagues. And only the boneheads are going to say, I'm not going to tell you because I'm maybe still your client. That's bull. Help each other out, because you might be needing help the next day.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't tell you the number of times that I've had Josh call me or Shane call me or pick somebody call me, nothing to do with the Nautel transmitter, just wanted to beat around an idea or a question about something. And I mean, 9 times out of 10, it might not be anything I know anything about, but it's like I tell my wife, sometimes you give solutions, sometimes you provide sympathy. You know, so yeah, use your resources. Hand way in the back. Where's Harish? Come on, buddy. I'm going to make, oh, is that Ben?
Steven.
Okay, it is Ben.
Oh, it is Ben.
It is Ben.
Oh, yeah.
We got to make him run out there now, just because for no other reason than you deserve the mic.
He's the eminence.
Yeah. I just like to watch Harish run. So poor Harish, and I'll tell you, he came to us new last year, a couple of years ago, and he's marketing / product management, and he's very, very smart, but he wasn't really tool oriented. So last year, because I'm evil, I handed him a screw gun and said, put this transmitter in that crate and put the crate together. Then he bought a house. He's much more tool oriented now. Okay, what's up, Ben?
I just wanted to emphasize the importance of college radio stations.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
My first exposure to an FM transmitter, a Raytheon RF-250, was at my college radio station, of which I was chief engineer for a bit. I'd already been exposed to AM radio in my high school days, but that college radio station really caused me to sit down and think about things like FM allocation rules and so forth, and probably led me even further in the direction of becoming a consulting engineer, disappointing my mother, who wanted me to be a college professor. But if your local institution of higher education has a radio station for student operation or even for just student programming, and you're a broadcaster in the neighborhood, you certainly should give those folks some support, because you're going to get people come out of that environment.
Right. And I mean, whether it's college radio or another example, I got a call the other day from an LPFM on the East Coast. Their engineer had recently retired, a couple of years ago, which tells you how long ago they looked at their transmitter, but they'd gone off air, and their only solution was, can we buy a new transmitter and plug it in? I said, that sounds like a $6,000 solution to a $500 problem. Well, it turned out the power was off at the transmitter site.
I've encountered that.
easier. Oh, Alex has got his hand up.
So
Gave him the mic. That's scary.
he doesn't know better. He's new.
That's what I said.
So I'm going to point out my success story of having a college radio station and a student who is now Josh Bohn's employee. Lindsay, stand up, please, and be recognized.
Lindsay is running the streaming for the NUG, so give her
Yeah.
a round of
Yay,
applause.
Lindsay.
This girl wanders into a college radio station not knowing anything, and now she's out playing with transmitters in Josh's backyard.
Yeah, she's been an integral part of our team since she joined us about 2 years ago. So yeah. that
So
is
I'll
a
emphasize
college
Ben,
radio success story
find
for
your
sure.
college station, mentor, free labor, guys, take it.
Yeah.
So get them in there, get them in. There is stuff that she hated when I had her do it. Hey, do the paperwork, make me some cables. But you know what? She did it. And then she was out there in the field with me putting together transmitters, and she climbs towers
Yeah.
against my better judgment.
Well, not anymore. She doesn't.
Well, yeah, just on her own time.
There
It's
you
on
go.
her own
There you go.
time.
What you do on your own time, there you go.
But the point
yeah.
is yes, foster that innovation. That is a very rare success story right now.
Well, the other part of that is be kind. I had a boss at a previous employer that I came to work, and my third day there, he lit into me about something and told me, I need a 30-year transmitter vet. And I looked right at him and I said, I'm 29 years old. You knew that when you hired me. And it just kind of progressively got worse. And he told me, I only worked there a month and a half. And he told me at one point, he's like, you're not a real engineer. I said, what do you mean I'm not a real engineer? Well, you don't know how to do this and this and this and this and this. I'm like, I said, well, I said, I have resources. I said, if I don't know how to do something, I call, this person or whatever. You shouldn't have to call anybody. You should just know that. And that stuck with me. It's like he told me I wasn't a real engineer because I didn't have 40 years of experience. And that's why I only worked there for 6 weeks, because I said, I can't stay in this environment. And, then the next job that I got was amazing. And I was only there a short time as well because the bottom fell out of the economy. But I still have a relationship with that company and those people to this day. We do a bunch of work for them because they were kind and understanding. And, I remember the first day I walked in there and sat down with my boss. I was assistant chief, and he looked at me and he said, I know you can do my job. I said, what? He said, I know you can do my job. I said, okay. He's like, so do it. He's like, just do what you need to do. Let me know if you have questions. Come and see me. I'm a resource. And that was a breath of fresh air, considering, some of the corporate stifling environments that I'd worked in over the years. And that's the big thing to me, is there are so few people getting into our industry, specifically the engineering portion of the industry, because it's a thankless job. And, so many owners and managers and companies treat engineering solely as an expense. And that's something that I've had to get good at over the years, and I think we all have, is convincing management or ownership that there's value there. No, we're not going out and selling spots. But if the radio station sounds like crap, or worse yet, isn't on the air, your spots don't matter. So
and I'm going to say, if you hang around you're going to hang around because we're not going to let you go. But the tips and tricks in a little bit, you'll see a perfect example of that kind of station.
yeah, absolutely.
Cindy, I think you had a thought there too. I thought,
No, I was just wondering how many people in the room came out of college radio. Right.
How many of them were accident getting there?
I'm going to say, so here's the question I
How many
asked
never left?
at both PREC and the SBE 101. How many people came into this industry on purpose? How many people planned to be a radio engineer? How many people stumbled into it and still 30, 40 years later have no idea how we got here? So my backstory, I was a Radio Shack bench technician a million years ago and was not happy with it. It was, speaking of thankless jobs. But my dad called me one day and he said, there's this company hiring. I know you're not happy. They do RF. And I go, oh, I work on cordless phones. That's RF. How hard can it be? So final thoughts, and then we're going to break for a second or two.
I got one question.
Okay, just a sec, Rick. Okay. Actually, go ahead.
Okay. I'm curious about the under 30-year-olds. How many of you, raise your hands, if you could do a proof on a four-finger directional array?
Oh, come on.
Do you guys know what a dog leg array is? Yeah, you're not under 20, under 30? 28, all right, so there's one. That's our problem, Jeff.
Yep.
There can, and imagine having to get something like 68 in Atlanta with a 12-finger directional array, which was a major pain.
Yep.
So anyway, but I'm just curious. So we got one person in the entire room of 280 people,
Right.
and about 12. It's what, six people under 30
Yep.
that could actually do a proof.
Right.
One of them can do it.
Of course,
Thank you for understanding how to do it.
You know, to say there's only half a dozen over 50 that could do a proof.
That's
on-
true.
Yeah. One of them's up here, two of them are back there, and I think there was one over there somewhere. There he is. So, yeah, all right. Any final thoughts real quick, and then we will take a quick break. No, I don't. You don't have to. If you got nothing to say, you got nothing to... Uh-oh.
Yeah,
You didn't have to give the mic to him, though.
To him.
Yeah, there you go.
The industry has changed a bit. When you were first brutalized, and I was brutalized by a consulting engineer who so cheesed me off, I said, damn it, I'm going to learn how to be a consultant and give away knowledge. He didn't want to teach me. Go away, boy, you don't need to know this. And I thought all sorts of unchristian thoughts and wanted to slash his tires. But that was the old radio and television days where the old creatures didn't want new people coming in. They were afraid of losing their jobs. There's still some of that, but I'm seeing more and more that people are willing to train and teach and share. Don't be afraid to ask. And if some old curmudgeon blows you off, call them what they are and move on. You'll find somebody who's willing to help you. Any one of the people in the room have been there and done that. Call us up. We will give you the time, because if we don't pass on what we know, it will die with us.
Yeah.
So seek us out.
I'm going to give you the example. So I say I did PREC 2 days ago. I did our SBE RF 101 for the last 2 days. I'm here today. I've called Gary and Cindy half a dozen times. I've called Stephen Lockwood. Unanimously, the answer has been yes, we'll come help you teach people stuff. Yeah. The people are out there willing to teach. Sometimes you have to look for them, but they're there. Yes?
So really quick,
Where's Harish? Come on, Harish.
You wouldn't make it on a game show.
How you doing? Randy Solis.
John, he needs a raise.
My name is Randy. I'm out of Idaho Falls, Idaho. I'm here with Sandhill Media Group. I'm fairly new to this. Probably just over a year of experience with these guys, learning everything. One of the things that I really want to tell you guys to focus on is when people hear engineers or anything like that, they get intimidated and they walk away. They're always like, no, we're not going to touch that. But one of the biggest things that really got me loving this job, and whenever I post them on social media, is the adventures of it. All the transmitter sites are out there in mountains and views and gorgeous areas that whenever I post, I get messages and comments from everybody saying, dude, what do you do?
Yeah.
And I say, I'm an engineer. And they're like, that sounds like a fancy job. It's hard. I'm like, it's really one of the best things and easiest things to learn. It's one of those things you repetitively do over and over and over again. Within a year, I've learned so much and experienced so much. I wouldn't trade this job for anything. So one of the biggest things to share would be the adventure of this job. It takes you everywhere. It takes you to unimaginable places that I thought I would never be a part of.
Yeah. You said unimaginable places, and I'm just thinking of some of Cindy's stories. I mean,
There's plenty of places I don't
she's
want to
been
imagine.
shot at.
Yes. Yep.
So, all right, real quick, and then we're going to have to break. We're not getting any further ahead on the schedule. You guys are totally
in regards
missing
to
my
Be
talk
Kind,
clock keeping.
in regards to Be Kind, I wanted to share my experience, which really helped me. It depends what kind of attitude of the words being used. I was very new engineer, 2-3 days at the job, very young age. My boss comes up, and he said he had a whole list of questions for me, which was scared me the hell out of it, because I didn't know the answers. So I thought they're going to just kick me out tomorrow. But it was kind enough. The moment he looked at the expression on my face. He said, son, calm down, let me explain to you. All these questions I have prepared for 2 reasons. I would just want to know how much I need to train you, and I need to know how much I'm going to learn from you. That was one of the biggest compliments I ever had. Thank you very much.
Very good. All right. Thank you all very much, folks. We'll give you 5 minutes to stretch a little bit, but we are way behind time and we need to get moving, so let's get her going.